Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Folks at home are invited to light your chalice while Julia leads our chalice lighting words this morning.
We promise to listen and learn together with compassion, curiosity, and an open mind, engage in creating a warm and welcoming community, work together and beyond our walls to address social and environmental challenges, and with our time, talent, and treasure, support our church and its mission.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pam Romancic. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm so grateful to be able to see you this morning. Each of us brings many different identities and personalities and perspectives to the world, and each one that you bring are welcome here this morning. We all strive to support the worth and dignity of every person and to remember our interconnection with the wider web of life. Thank you now for putting any electronic gadgets you have in worship mode so there's no beeping during the service. Any children are welcome to go to our childcare across the lane, down the steps, third door on the left, anytime during the service. Our kids are starting to get their vaccinations, so pretty soon we'll be welcoming them back here with us, and we're really excited about that. Yay. I want to say thank you this morning to Julia Beckman, who's our worship associate, and as always, Jamie Passman, our amazing music provider, and for John Cooperwriter, who's stepping in at the last moment to help out with singing our first song. Now, details for everything that was going on our announcement slides can be found in news and notes, or it can be found on our website. If you are new and would like to receive news and notes, you can sign up at the desk at the back of the church, or if you're online, you can go ahead. There's a contact form at the top of the top banner, drop down a contact form, fill that out and we'll get you all signed up. Now, you may have noticed a QR code on the wall back there. If you have shot that in the past, it'll still be good today. It has our order of service. Everything that's going on in the is on the website, and this QR code will open that if you scan it with your phone. And if you hear something or see some video that you really liked, you can go to our website, find the order of service, and all the videos are connected on the online order of service. As of next week, we're going to be switching to YouTube permanently for broadcasting the service or live streaming the service. This works better with the system that we have, so we're really hoping that it's going to help cut down on a lot of the issues that we've had over the last bit of time in our struggle, and our Herculean struggle to be able to behave as a much larger church and live stream our services and have them out into the world. Thanks again to Suzanne, Jean, and Alex for helping make this happen. The Racial Equity team is going to be offering a virtual screening of the Emmy Award-winning documentary 13th by Ava DuVernay on Thursday, this coming Thursday, November 18th at 6:30. The link is online and in news and notes. The film explores the relationship between America's history of slavery and mass incarceration and all of the different inequalities and how they kind of came out of that, and how actually the 13th Amendment, which we've celebrated, makes that possible. Remember, this is probably our last week, I think, for Homegrown National Parks to be up here. So if you have native plants in your house, go ahead and sign up to be represented, and then go ahead and check a little sticker, put it where you live, and sign your name so we know how many people are participating in the Homegrown National Parks program. And today, there's a great Uch Book Exchange, which is also sponsored by our Green Sanctuary. So it's completely free. I was over there. There are a lot of cool books over in Joshi Chapel. So grab a shopping bag out of your car, head on over and see what you can take home. And we have started to be joined by a group called Congregational Accompanying Project for Asylum Seekers. And so there's a family that just was recently reunited after being separated at the border. There's a 12-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy, I believe. They've just been reunited and they're living in Aurora. But as the family applies for asylum, they can't make any money or work for at least 6 months. So they need support. So Marian Hunnell Wilson has taken on the gathering of stuff. Half of our collection today will go directly to support that family. The other half today is going to go to Chalice House, which is also an immigration support group. It's the house that our sister church, can't think of words, Countryside UU Church in Palatine. They took a house that the church owned and rehabbed it and made it possible for families that were going through the immigration process to be supported. So our collection today and all through the month of November will be to support those two families. This coming Saturday, we're going to hold a celebration of life for Sally Packard. She died over the summer, and it's going to be 11 o'clock here in the sanctuary. Sally was a longtime beloved member of this congregation, and we both miss her and are looking forward to being able to celebrate her life. There are probably a lot of other things that I should be telling you about today. That's the top ones that I can remember at this time. So make sure you check out and stay informed. Don't miss anything important that's going on. We begin our time together now with open hearts and open minds, listening for wisdom of spirit, listening for the joy of connection, listening for the comfort of a faith home that welcomes our whole and holy selves. Let our worship begin. Our opening music will be number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door, and John Cooper Ryder is going to sing it for us. Thank you so very much. Now is the time in our service where we say thank you.
Sorry to drop in all unexpected.
Called a gratitude moment and celebrate people who have been nominated by your fellow congregants. And this morning, the people that have been nominated are Steve Trout and Charlie Fisher. Yay. We say thanks to Steve and Charlie for the ongoing care of our lawn and gardens, and because over the last few months, they have been out there repairing and refurbishing the various memorial benches out on the lawn. and cleaning up a whole bunch of other detritus. So make sure you go look at how lovely it is, even though it's pretty gray and rainy out there. And when you see them, say thanks to Steve and Charlie. And think of anybody else that you've seen doing good work around the church that you think we should say thank you to on a Sunday morning, and let me know. I do have a little list I'm working off right now, but you can always send more.
I promise you, I'm gonna do more than
Out of
that.
this place of fullness and gratitude, we bring our gifts to the church community. We work to make the world a little bit better by offering what we can and bringing our time and our treasure and our talent. Now is the time when we share our good blessing, our good work, go out into the wider world. And so this month, as I said earlier, we've chosen Chalice House and the family that's going to be in Aurora. So here is Tracy Olson explaining this month's special collection.
Hello, everybody. The November Social Justice Collection will focus on immigration. The collection will go to two entities. Both will be helping families seeking asylum. An asylum seeker is a person who has left their country and is seeking protection from persecution and serious human rights violations in another country, but who hasn't yet been legally recognized as a refugee and is waiting to receive a decision on their asylum claim. The first recipient of the collection this week will go to Chalice House, which is owned by Countryside Unitarian Church. Chalice House provides transitional housing to immigrants legally seeking asylum in the United States. In July of 2020, the first Chalice House family moved in, and they're there still today, Jerry, Sandra, and 4-year-old Zinaba. They arrived from the Democratic Republic of the Congo via Brazil and Texas. The money we collect today will go to supplemental expenses, such as transportation and medical expenses. The other half of the collection will go to a family helped by the organization Al Otro Lado. That organization works to reunite families who were separated at the U.S.-Mexico border. The family we will be helping is a family of 4 who was reunited 2 weeks ago. In Aurora, Illinois, their family reunification case manager writes this about the family. They are starting their lives over entirely in Aurora and need assistance getting situated in their new home. The 2 parents have a 12-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son that they are working to get enrolled in the local school system. In order to comply with the U.S. government's legal processes, the parents are barred from employment for up to 6 months while they await employment authorization. Your donation will assist with essentials like food and utilities. You can donate today by putting money or a check in the collection plate, going to the UCH website and clicking the donate button, or sending a check into the office. On the website or on the check memo line, please indicate that it's for the Social Justice Collection. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Tracy, for creating that wonderful explanation for us. As our collection is gratefully received, I invite you to say our offering words together. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, and the fun we have together. It's what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world. Thank you so much for your generosity.
Our first reading is entitled A Sorrow Shared by Henri J.M. Nguyen. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Real grief is not healed by time. It is false to think that the passing of time will slowly make us forget her and take away our pain. I really want to console you, but not by suggesting that time will take away your pain. I would not only be telling a lie. If time does anything, it deepens our grief. Real, deep love is, as you know, very unobtrusive, seemingly easy and obvious, and so present that we take it for granted. Therefore, it is often only in retrospect, or better in memory, that we fully realize its power and depth. Yes, indeed, love often makes itself visible in pain. The pain we are now experiencing shows us how deep, full, intimate, and all-pervasive love was. Is this a consolation? Does this bring comfort? It appears that I'm doing the opposite of bringing consolation. Maybe so. Maybe these words will only increase your tears and deepen your grief, but for me, who grieves with you, there is no other way. I want to comfort and console you, but not in a way that covers up real pain and avoids all wounds. I am writing you in the firm conviction that reality can be faced and entered with an open mind and an open heart, and in the sincere belief that consolation and comfort are to be found where our wounds hurt most. Thus ends the reading.
There's a colossal anguish, and it's not an individual matter, but we as a planet people are sick in our soul. We have pathologized pain. We have made it a wrong thing. We have made it like a mistake, rather than acknowledging that we need pain to alert us for what needs attention. And we have been treating it as some kind of enemy to our cheerfulness. I began so in this as I was exploring how personally to befriend this pain, because I knew it was speaking some truth, as is indeed in Buddhism the first noble truth. The first noble truth that the Lord Buddha taught is dukkha, suffering. There is suffering. And if you want to get anywhere, honey, if you want to grow up, if you want to open to life, if you want to be enlightened, whatever, however you describe the state you're after, then you have to face that and see there is suffering. And there were lines from my childhood in the church, the Christian church, you know, blessed are they that mourn. And that would come up in sound. And so what happens for people as they get real about their true feelings, when they tell the truth about what they see and feel and know is happening to our world, something so beautiful and so freeing happens. The jewel. It's like something Tiffany would like to recreate. Oh, so lovely. Like us. I mean, like us, just like dew on the grass. It's like that poem of Mary Oliver, where she says, you tell me your despair and I'll tell you mine. And this allows the world to become more vivid, seeing the wild geese, seeing this incredible planet that we're in with all the life that's around us. Because we had the courage, the strength to speak of our despair. But precisely because we speak it, we don't stay there. Because that despair is the covering of our love for our world, and we crack it open by speaking it so the love can act. So the key is in not being afraid of our pain for the world, not being afraid of the world's suffering. And if you're not afraid of it, then nothing can stop you.
That was Joanna Macy, who has been a Buddhist nun and person working for the environment for many, many decades. We bring ourselves to a meditation that was also written by Joanna, adapted out of the Buddhist tradition. I'm going to invite you into this meditation and also let you know that it is on our order of service. So if you want to return and do it again, you can go there and click on it and play and listen to this meditation again. So I invite you now, settle into your chairs, put your feet on the floor, take your breath in and breath out. Listen for just a few moments to the stillness of your beating heart. Now close your eyes and focus in on your breath. Don't try to breathe in any special way. Just watch the breathing as it happens. Note the sensations in the nose, the chest, the abdomen. As you watch the breathing. Note that it seems to happen by itself, without your will, without your deciding to inhale or exhale each time. It's as though you are being breathed by life, just as everyone in this place, on this planet, is being breathed by life, sustained in a vast, living, breathing web. Now visualize that breath going in and out as a ribbon or a stream of air, and see it flow up your nose, down your windpipe into your lungs, and then take it through your heart. Picture it flowing through your heart and then flowing back out again, out of your open heart. As it flows out, it reconnects with the whole of life. Let your breath stream be one loop with that vast web, connecting you with every other breathing being on this planet. As you pay attention to that ribbon flowing out into the world and returning, bring your awareness to all of the suffering in this world. Drop your defenses, open to your knowledge of the suffering that exists. Images of your fellow beings in pain, in need, separated from their parents, in fear or isolation, in prisons and hospitals and slums and refugee camps. There's no need to strain for these images. We see them every day, and we are present to them by virtue of our interexistence. As you breathe in, relax. Let the images surface. The countless hardships that our fellow human beings and our animal brothers and sisters are suffering in this moment. Now breathe in the pain as if there were granules of sand on that stream of air that's going up your nose, down your throat, through your lungs and heart, and then out again, out into the world. Be sure the stream continues to flow. Make sure it goes through your heart and back out again. Don't hang on to the pain. Allow it to come in and then gently to leave again. Surrender it to the healing resources of life's vast web. Now, if no feelings arise and only blankness and numbness are there, breathe through that. The numbness is a part of our world today. And if what surfaces for you with the pain of others is the losses and hurts of your own life, breathe through those too. These are an integral part of the grief of the whole world, and they arise with it. Shantideva says, "Let all sorrows ripen in me." We help them ripen by passing them through our hearts, by making good, rich compost out of all of that grief. Then we can learn from it. We can enhance our larger collective knowing. And should you start to be afraid, start fearing that this pain will break open your heart, remember that a heart that breaks open can hold the entire universe. Your heart is that large. Keep breathing. If something has arisen this morning that you would like to come up and light a candle for, whether something's weighing down upon your heart or lifting it up in joy, please come up and light a candle. You can say a word or two or simply return to your seat.
I lit a candle for my grandfather who passed this past week at the age of 94. He was a World War II veteran, one of the last still living. We're very proud of him and celebrate his life this week. Thank you.
I lit a candle in celebration for my niece, Taylor Havelka, who many of you know. She received her bachelor's degree in business administration, I think, with a concentration in human resources, and has started a new life in Chicago. So we're very proud of her, and you can send her positive energy.
Good morning, I'm Jonathan. I light one candle for the pain that we're suffering from the time change and the darkness that seems to be enfolding us. But on the other hand, December 21st is coming, and that's one of my favorite days of the year because although it's the darkest, it's the time when the days start to get longer. So I'm very happy that that's on its way. And my second candle is for a piano student that I have. She hadn't studied in 20 years, and she is making amazing progress, and that's always gratifying for a piano teacher.
I'm lighting a candle for my friend Dee. Her husband just quit paying the mortgage and lost them their house, and now she and her family have been living in a motel for the last few months, and nobody wants to rent to her because her income is so low and her credit score is bad. So I'm lighting a candle for her.
One candle for 4 November and October birthdays.
We've already celebrated Steve and Charlie, but I wanted to tell you that I was one of the recipients of their wonderful work. The bench that is of my husband was magically restored into better than its original shape by Steve, and Charlie very kindly found a shrub to replace the one that was dying right behind the bench. So I particularly have a big vote of gratitude.
We light our 3 final candles today, one for all of those intentions which are just too tender to be spoken aloud this morning, but will rest in the sanctuary of our hearts. One for our planet, all our fellow beings, and that our leaders might remember where we live and how we should be taking care of one another. And then finally, for this church that walks with all of us in sorrow and in joy. We are very grateful for every single one of you.
This reading is entitled "The Future Enters Us" by Rainer Maria Rilke, from Letters to a Young Poet. It seems to be that all our sadnesses are moments of tension that we feel as paralysis because we can no longer experience our banished feelings. Because we are alone with the unfamiliar presence that has entered us, because we feel momentarily abandoned by what we've believed and grown accustomed to, because we can't keep standing as the ground shifts under our feet, that is why the sadness passes over like a wave. The new presence inside us, that which has come to us, has entered our heart, has found its way to its innermost chamber, and is no longer even there. It is already in our blood. And we don't know what it was. We could easily be persuaded that nothing happened, and yet something has changed inside us, as a house changes when a guest comes into it. We cannot say who has entered, we may never know, but there are many indications that the future enters us in just this way, to transform itself within us long before it happens. That is why it is so important to be alone and attentive when you are sad, because the seemingly uneventful and motionless moment when our future steps into us is so much closer to life than any loud and accidental point of time which occurs, as it were, from the outside. Thus ends the reading.
Our inner lives transform our experience of the world around us. Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about gratitude a lot. We started having our gratitude moment. We started thanking one another for all the gifts that we give to one another. And we're doing this because gratitude is such a tremendous part of living a happy and healthy and full human life. Gratitude grounds us in what is and offers a bulwark against a society that's constantly telling us that we're not enough and that we need more and more and more. Gratitude helps us find things that are already in our lives and reminds us that we are okay, that we are connected to the whole of life, that what we have to give is worth receiving and what we receive is a blessing. It reminds us that life is not about acquiring, it's about living in relationship with the people around us and with our earth. It's also about trying to shut down that inner greedy voice that says, you do need that one more pair of shoes. I'm talking to me. Do not need that shoes. It's so hard, isn't it? Every time you open your email and there's the shoes that pop up at the side because you looked at them once, so they're going to keep popping up at you. Almost every spiritual tradition recommends gratitude as one of the paths to enlightenment and to the cessation of that suffering that is just a part of the human condition. And one of the simplest practices we can take up is a gratitude journal, where every day we just write down one thing in that day we were grateful for, one thing that filled our hearts. It could be as simple as looking at the color of the leaves in a gray sky, or as rich as being grateful for some huge blessing that someone has brought you. But you know what? As good as gratitude is, and it is good, it isn't all we need. Because no matter how aware we are of the good things and the people in our lives, there are instances of loss and trauma, of suffering and anxiety over which gratitude is just not going to make it go away. Gratitude sets our ground, so if they're firmly in it, then when those inevitable traumas wash over us, we have something to hold on to. But they can't dissolve all of it. Being grounded helps us to stop from heading right back over to those unhealthy things that we do when we trauma erupts in our life, whether it's heading back over to the icebox or the snack cupboard, or whether it's filling up the Amazon cart, or heading for pharmaceuticals or cocktails, or just overwork, because all of these things are ways that we can stop ourselves from being aware of the pain in our lives. So that's why the second word in today's sermon title is grief. Gratitude, grief, and transformation. Because acknowledging grief is a lot like gratitude, in that we have to be fully present to our lives. We have to be paying attention to what's going on in order to feel the whole of it. When we allow ourselves to experience grief, we recognize the hard things in the world and recognize that those hard things have an effect on our bodies and our psyches and our relationships. Today's purveyors of consumer goods want us to believe that we never have to feel bad, that there's always something that can take away the pain. As Joanna Macy said, they pathologized a big part of being human by making us feel like failures if we're not happy all the time. But that's crazy. No one can feel up and happy all the time. At some point or another, there's going to be a crash. Grief is the mechanism that helps us shift from one reality to another. It helps us make that transition from some place where we felt that we had what we needed to a place where we have lost. Maybe we're angry, maybe we're sad, whatever that unpleasant part of life is. Grief helps us transition. Grief is the message that something is indeed wrong, that that person we loved is no longer there, that the planet is not behaving, not being treated as it should be. Because we know we have to be present to the fullness of our lives, all of our emotions, because if we don't, we're blocking off a huge part of ourselves. Paula talked a few weeks ago about the dangers of toxic positivity, of living only on the surface of life and never allowing all of that dark, hard stuff to come up. As somebody who's gone through a lot of grief in the past few years, I know it's not something you want to do. And sometimes to get through a particularly rough patch, we might have to compartmentalize our grief. We might have to put it in a little box till we get that big project done, or until we've gotten the house all cleaned out, or until we find some space that we can make the time for ourselves to open it up and be present to it. There's nothing wrong with a little short-term compartmentalization. The problem comes when we never make the space, when we never open up that box and allow that sadness to flow into our heart and back out again, to be transformed and to transform ourselves from one reality into another reality. Because you know what? Whether we like it or not, feelings have their way. I see it in small ways in my own relationships. It seems if something's bugging me and I try to just ignore it and push it down, it's pretty sure that it's going to pop out at some inopportune time as an overly sharp comment that I meant as a joke. And it's going to end up causing more pain later than if I just said, hey, this is bugging me in this moment. And then we all know the bigger relationship issues where one partner is so afraid to deal with whatever it is that's going on that they keep shoving it down until the other partner feels so distant they just leave. And maybe the original partner was not wanting them to leave, but by not dealing with what was real, they couldn't change it, they couldn't fix it, they couldn't make it be something that strengthened the relationship instead of breaking it apart. The harder emotions, grief and anger and angst and pain, cannot be wished away. kind of like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of energy to hold that down under the water, and it's always trying to pop back up. And maybe you can hold down 1 or 2 bits of grief or anger, or maybe you can hold down a few things, but the moment something knocks you a little sideways, they're going to pop up and splash everyone with the energy that had been taken to hold that sadness down. For many of us, this is our response to the changing climate, to this overhanging thing that we see in the news every day, the fires and the floods and the hurricanes, all of the things that are going on that we see happening. But it feels like we're holding such it is so big, it's such a ginormous grief that all we can do is shove it down. Shoving it down takes a lot of energy, doesn't it? Holding that beach ball underwater takes focus and energy that takes that energy away from the rest of our lives. Is it any wonder we're all so exhausted? The thought of what is happening now is huge. The extinction of hundreds of species each year, the loss of habitat, the dying coral reefs. Just saw an article in Audubon the other day that said we've lost 3 million birds this year and 11 species of birds. It hurts your heart. Being on earth, being of the earth, being connected to the web of life says that pain is our pain. Whether we're allowing it to come up into our consciousness or not, it is there. And it really feels so ginormous, so big, that if we open up to it, we might just be washed away by the pain, might not be able to handle it. I know that fear. I know the scariness of looking at what's really happening in our world. I think when the UN report came out, it's a couple months ago now, I sat at the kitchen table and just cried. I said, we should be screaming, we should be running, we should be doing everything in our power, and we're just going to continue going forward like nothing has ever happened. But running away doesn't serve any of us, does it? In fact, remember when you were a kid and you were terrified of that monster under the bed? And if you didn't look, the monster kept growing and growing until pretty soon you had to keep your hands and everything under the covers because you never know what part of you it could get. But if you just got brave enough to turn on the light and peek your head under the bed, there'd be nothing there. Maybe a sock, at worst, a mouse. Something you could deal with, something that would allow you to have some more agency in your life. But maybe that's not the best analogy because monsters under the bed aren't real. It's more like ignoring a screaming fire alarm. And you're telling yourself, it's a false alarm. I don't have to pay attention to the alarm. But some part of us, some part of you continues to hear that alarm going off, and you cannot ever tune it out entirely. And some part of you is freaking out. It might be frozen in fear, unable to move. But it knows that something is wrong. So what do we do? What do we do with the grief that is so big? What do we do to allow ourselves to be able to move again? Allow ourselves to use grief to transform us out of a place of immobility into a place where we can move and change and have action in this world. Most human faith traditions remind us that we begin by being present in this moment, by paying attention to our breath, by breathing in and out, and noticing, simply noticing what is. And out of that noticing, out of that initial gratitude, we recognize our kinship with the whole of the world, with the whole of life. And then we ground ourselves first in what is good, what is solid, what can carry us through. And from that place of grounding, then we can step forward and do the things that are possible to do. There will be suffering. The Buddha described the suffering as dukkha, a longing for something other than what is. We all long for the world to be whole, for the skies to be blue, for our planet to be healthy. That's a longing that's there. And our grief tells us that's not the reality we live within. So how can our grief move us in this reality to a place of being able to move? Now, it'd be lovely if we were all enlightened beings, if we could let go of all of our attachments to people and places and things, but I don't think, at least for me, most of us aren't quite there yet. We suffer from loss, from disappointment, from knowing the world is not as we want it to be. But we don't have to suffer quite as much as we are. By making space to breathe, to see this pain, to see it, to see its colors, to see how it feels in our body, where it rests, we give it space to move on our breath, to move into our hearts, to move open and out of our hearts, to move into the world in a way where we can hold it, and we can also do the work that we need to do. Breathing connects us to that fullness of life and allows the pain to travel in and out, never stopping, to be so much of a burden that we cannot hold it. Once we stop suppressing the discomfort of our lives, we can release a tremendous amount of energy. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like we wouldn't believe it. But like releasing that beach ball from under the water, letting go of suppressed emotions can free up tons of energy in our bodies that we can direct into living right relationship with the world and the people around us. So as a moment today, I've brought a ritual of release. And I invite anyone who wants to come up to take a stone and hold the stone for a moment. And think of all of those images that came up for you, the pain that you were holding, the pain that is moving through you, and see what you would like to set down this morning after you have honored it, after you have acknowledged it and seen what it is, and then drop it into the water. The water will spill over the sides, representing the tears that we have for all of the suffering of this world, for all of the tears for our earth, for our families, for our friends, for our own losses, for our own lives. I can invite you to come up this aisle if you can, come drop a stone and then return to your seat. Breathe in, allowing that ribbon of life to flow through your heart, and breathe out, allowing it to enter the web where it can be healed by power way beyond our own. I'm going to take all of these stones and create a cairn, I think in the back room. And a bowl of stones will be there, and each week when you come in, if you have something resting on your heart that you need to hold for a moment and let go, you can put it on that cairn. And we will hold both our gratitude as a congregation and also our sorrow and our grief. All of those together create the fullness of what it means to be human. And a space like this allows us to hold one another together. For those people at home, I invite you to do your own ritual, finding a stone, imbuing it with the pain that you cannot hold, and letting it go. The final step in this process is transformation. Transformation never happens on demand. We can never make ourselves transform. All we can do is ready ourselves. All we can do is be fully present to what life is, to what life has blessed us with, and to the hardships of transitioning from one space to another. It's a process of continued gratitude, of grieving, and then continuing to remain present to this world. Let go of your regrets, those are behind you. Let go of your fear for the future. Let that alone. Stay in this moment and bring your whole and holy self. Amen, and blessed be.
One of the great lessons that music teaches us is that it's okay to embrace sadness. Music that is sad is so today's musical selections feature two composers who are that's beautiful music. First is a person. Jimmy Van Music lost a child.
I invite you at home to extinguish your chalice and join Julia as she leads our extinguishing words.
I'd like to repeat it with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
Okay, next time. Our closing words. Breathing in, we are breathed into connecting with the flow of life. Breathing out, we release fear and pain into its healing web. Do not be afraid of something that seems so very large, because each of us are part of that largeness, part of that ginormity. Each of us have our existence connected to this larger earth, this larger world. We partake of her blessings. We give our own gifts in return. Opening, when we are afraid, allows us to break down the barriers of fear, of guilt, of longing to be other than our own very perfect selves. Find gratitude in your breath. Find grief in your breath. Find your deepest and truest self in every moment, as the world breathes you into your whole and holy selves. What do you do?
And now, peace written out of the depths, greatest